Survive and Advance on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance, as always, is brought to you by BetNow.eu to get a 50% cash back bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000. Make sure you go to BetNow.eu. You can go through the GruelingTruth.com where you click on the banner at the top of the page. And like I said, use the promo code TRUTH50 to get a 50% cash back bonus on your first deposit. I am your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, as always, because I can't find anybody else that'll take his spot. Help me welcome to the show, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fine. Find somebody to take my spot, would you please?
All right. Anthony, are you down?
I'm here.
There you go.
I'm good. And there will be zero.
You can have it.
And I haven't even asked Sam yet, so we might have two volunteering for it. But with the amount of money that I pay you, I mean, you know you can't afford to give it up. All right, today we're going to do a preview of the NFC North, which will be coming up, start of the seasons in 2 weeks. Tomorrow we'll do the NFC East. And today for the NFC North, we've got from the FF Face-Off podcast, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
And so everybody knows, if you don't have time to listen to tomorrow's show, Anthony Cervino will be picking his beloved Dallas Cowboys to win the division no matter what happens.
I mean,
Correct.
who's going to challenge them, really?
Well, the Eagles are by far the better team, but that's for tomorrow.
Well,
Plus, they have a real coach. And they've won a Super Bowl in this century. But other than that. All right, so let's talk about a team that, you know, we've got – don't laugh when I say this, guys, but we've got our Detroit Lions writer, Sam McGinnis. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm waiting for those angry articles after each game with Sam where you can just hear him venting on how much he hates the Lions, even though he loves them at the same time.
It's true. It's very true.
I know, because you'll be able to read Cincinnati Bengal articles like that all year long, too. All right, guys, let's start off.
Yeah, I didn't move anywhere any better.
Let's start off at the NFC North, and that's today's show. Last year, the Chicago Bears won the division. Of course, I think the Lions were fourth, Sam. But when we look at the Lions, I still think this is a team with some hope this year. I mean, when you look at them, I think they've got less holes than normal and less holes in their team than what most people think that they have, Sam.
I think they've patched it up a little bit, but I think the problem is still the division that they're in is always very tight and has a lot of good teams in it typically. So I don't think playoffs is anything to be looking for.
Oh, I think they could, because I don't think this division is that good, Anthony. I think this is a bunch of teams that could go anywhere from 6-10 to 10-6.
I think the NFC North is super talented. I think any one of those teams in the division can win it, much like I feel about the AFC South at times. But if you look whether it's the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, or the Bears, you can make a case for any one of those teams to come out on top.
Yeah, and when you look at what, as they call them now, the Detroit Patriots have done in the offseason, Steve, this team is kind of designed the way Matt Patricia's defense and, you know, the New England Patriots offense was designed. They added T.J. Hawkinson, which there's your Rob Gronkowski guy, and they've got the receiving back, Theo Riddick. You got wide receivers like Marvin Jones, Patriot Danny Amendola, and Kenny Golladay. There's a lot of talent in Detroit, more than normal. It's usually Matt Stafford, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talking about the Lions right now. I get it, but this whole division is predicated on how the quarterbacks perform because there's not really a stellar quarterback, what I would call a stellar quarterback.
Steve, Aaron Rodgers isn't a stellar quarterback?
Aaron Rodgers doesn't count.
I think Aaron Rodgers is past his prime.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's still a great quarterback, and he's a legend. And
well, then how
we'll
can you say that nobody's got a really good quarterback? Matt Stafford, I think, is a heck of a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
the point I was trying to make was that this whole division is predicated on which of these quarterbacks performs well this year, more so than anything else.
Well,
and Stafford's had some personal issues in his life with his wife and things like that. I don't know how distracting that's going to be to him. How much that's going to take away from his thought process, I don't know. He's a reliable quarterback. I think he's one of the longest-lasting quarterbacks playing, not missed a game. It's just, it's just going to see which of the 4 quarterbacks come out and play well. Can Kirk Cousins come out? Stafford play well? Is Rodgers going to not be injured or play solid again? Is Trubinsky going to continue to mature like he's matured? I think it boils down to those 4. Stafford certainly is the solid player here, and that team continues to come up. But I don't know if they have enough talent depth-wise across the board to be a contender
at
this point in time.
Sam, go ahead. I know you had something to say.
Yeah, I'd actually disagree on quarterbacks doing the best as to being the reason for any one of those teams being on top. Because if you look, Chicago was on top last year, and clearly Trubisky was not the person to perform best in that division quarterback-wise. I think it's actually going to have a lot more to do with defense. Bears' defense was very dominant that year.
Yeah, and defensively, Anthony, when you look at this, the Packers have upgraded, but it looks to me like they have some issues. But when you look at the Lions, I think Jared Davis is a guy who becomes a top 5 linebacker this year under Patricia. I think that defensively, they're a team that I don't think really has any outstanding weaknesses, and they play under the Patricia system where you get a strong array of man coverages from their deep secondary, and they're not really going to blitz a lot, so they're not going to take themselves out of position, and that's why I seriously think this Detroit team is an 8-8 team where if things go right, maybe they could win 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, I think Detroit's going to sneak up on people. The second year in Patricia's system, I know they brought in the pass rusher from New England who's already familiar with Matt Patricia's system. And then on the offensive side of the ball, all the reports are suggesting they are going to commit to the run a little bit more. We could see a lot more 2 and even 3 tight end sets. Even outside of short yardage situations, they're going to take the pressure off of Matt Stafford. And, of course, I think the player flying under the radar, is you brought up before, is Danny Amendola. He's a veteran. He's going to move the sticks, and he's very dependable when he can stay away from the injury bug.
Yeah, the only issue I see here with the Detroit Lions is on the offensive line, Sam. I think they have some issues at guard. But I think this is the most complete offense, even including the Calvin Johnson teams, which, let's face it, they were basically Calvin Johnson. I think this is a fairly complete offense, and I think people forget, 3 years ago, Matt Stafford, until he gets injured towards the start of the season, or towards the end of the season, the Lions were sitting as like a number 2 seed with like 3 or 4 weeks to go when he got hurt. So I think Matthew Stafford is an underrated quarterback who's just normally been in bad situations with not a lot of help.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you look at it, he's never had a genuinely good offensive line, and he still puts up the stats and the numbers that he does. So he runs around all the time. He gets hit all the time, and he still performs the way he does. I think if there's one player I'd always bet on the Detroit Lions, it'd be Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, because, Steve, it's hard to get past a leader that will play through anything. And with Hawkinson, he's a guy that was a great run blocker at Iowa. So he's going to boost the ground game and the passing game all together at once. You got Kerryon Johnson at running back. I think this is a team that will be hindered because of being weak at guard. And I think that kind of hinders pulling and blocking scheme, which is a staple to power and counter runs I think they want to do, which I think could hurt them in the end. But when you look at this, I mean, is Detroit last place here, Steve?
No, I don't think so. I think they made some of the biggest moves of any team in that division this offseason on both offense and defense, from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing. So I think they're going to be a much improved team. I think they're getting their continuity down. Like I said, Matt Stafford is a tough, durable quarterback. He's not going to falter on you. He's going to stay in the game. So I would say Detroit is the most dangerous team in this division in terms of making the biggest jump right now. But I just don't know if they have the talent Chicago has or Green Bay has.
All right, I think they have a lot more talent than Green Bay, Anthony.
Okay.
And when we talk about the Packers, That was just a way to transition, Steve. But when we talk
That's
about
fine.
the Packers,
No, it's fine. Yeah, good. Please do.
when we talk about the Packers, you've got a new coach in LaFleur. Running back, I still think is an issue. Aaron Jones, the past 2 seasons, has averaged 5.5 yards per carry, but he's dealt with knee injuries. And in the preseason so far, which I don't read a lot into, but they've had a lot of trouble running the ball. And if they can't run the ball, that offensive line gets older. I mean, the question still is, can Aaron Rodgers make through it an entire season?
I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. I think people are. If there was ever a year anybody sleeping on Aaron Rodgers, it's this year. I think Aaron Rodgers is not only going to bounce back, but I think he is going to bounce back in a big way. The weapons on the team, he has a second year with the tight end, Jimmy Graham. Devontae Adams is a stud at receiver, and they have some young pieces at receiver too. This is a reloaded offense. Aaron Jones, if he can stay healthy, I think he has breakout written all over him. The Packers, they might be my pick to win this division when it's all said and done.
Well, it's all going to be said and done in about 20 minutes, so be ready to pick it. Let's see.
Okay, how does the relationship going to work between LaFleur and Rodgers? I mean, you got a new rookie coach coming in and a guy who's run this offense for X number of years. How much is that going to factor in, guys, to what happens with the Packers? I mean, is Rodgers ready to, say, hey, I still have a coach? Or is he like, I'm the big dog here?
Well, I want to hot take this one. I tweeted this out a few weeks ago, and I had a little bit of backlash because it's never going to happen. But if I was Matt LaFleur, because Aaron Rodgers is already being Aaron Rodgers with some of LaFleur's decision-making, why wouldn't LaFleur, you know what, we're gonna bench you for a quarter? Just to show control. Because if you don't show that control, Aaron Rodgers is going to own you.
Yeah, but see, the thing is this. If he's already started to own him, it's already too late.
It's already too late.
And this is the thing.
That's my point.
What's ownership in Green Bay going to do if they do that? Because they may not let LaFleur do that.
Well, who even owns the team? The town?
No. Fans don't own the team because if you owned the team, you would have an actual vote that mattered. There's an actual board of directors that owns the team.
You can buy stock in the Packers. It's like the Celtics.
Yeah, but you don't own anything. It's just a way to steal money from Green Bay Packer fans that are gullible.
I think at one time I bought Boston Celtics stock. I just bought 10 shares just to have it.
Then Larry Bird hurt his back and that stock plummeted.
I probably still own it. It's probably still in my portfolio for all I know. I don't even know. You got brokers that take care of that stuff. So.
Yeah, and I think here, when you look at Green Bay, we know Aaron Rodgers is going to be good, Sam. I think the question is, what's Mike Petine's team do on defense? And in free agency, they added Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, a lot of Smiths there, and Adrian Amos. They drafted Rashawn Gary, which I think is going to be a bust out of Michigan, and Darnell Savage, who I really liked out of Maryland. And then you've also got, last year you had Jair Alexander and Josh Jackson at the cornerback position. But my question is this, Sam, that's an awful lot of young guys you're dependent on to all mesh together this year.
Well, yeah, because this is the big problem is everybody puts too much pressure on Aaron Rodgers because as one player, he does well almost all the time. I think the real question is, like you were saying, is can the team and defense, more importantly, come together? And I really don't think so yet. I think the thing the Packers really aren't willing to admit is that they're in rebuild. And so I think it should be another couple of years before they're really back in it.
Well, I think they're in rebuild mode. But, Anthony, when you got Aaron Rodgers, if he plays all 16 games, even in rebuild mode, you're going to win 8 or 9 games at least.
You would think the Packers are in a rebuild mode?
I think they are defensively because, as we just talked about, cornerback I think is the toughest position to transition to in the NFL outside of quarterback. And you're going to have 2 corners that are in their second season. You're going to have a safety in his first season. You've got your edge pass rusher in his first season. You've got to mesh the 2 Smiths and Amos at safety, the 2 Smiths at linebacker. there's a lot of pieces that have to fit just right for this to work.
Aaron Rodgers never really had much of a defense around him.
He did when he won the Super Bowl.
As long as they're a middle-of-the-pack team and Aaron Rodgers plays like Aaron Rodgers, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, but you also got to remember this. I think the best defenses he had was the one he won the Super Bowl with.
I don't even remember who was on that team. It was so long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. I remember Super Bowl IX and watching it. That Super Bowl was not that long ago. Steve, I know you remember Super Bowl I.
Yes, I do.
There you go.
I'm that old.
Yes, you are.
I think the Packers are going to be one of the bigger disappointments in the NFL this year. I don't think that. I think Rodgers is beyond his prime. He's getting too much into Brett Favre kind of mode. He's a gunslinger now, where I don't think he controls his offense the way he needs to. And but it's just my opinion. I just think you're gonna say the Bears. I think the Bears are still the team to beat in this division. And I don't think that Rodgers is going to have a year that everybody thinks he's going to have.
The only thing that's going to derail Aaron Rodgers is injuries. Remember back to last year in Week 1, he got banged up against the Bears, and he played through it. He really didn't look like himself until midseason. In recent years, Aaron Rodgers has dealt with injuries. If he can stay healthy, I think he'll be fine. But if he gets banged up, then we could expect a middle-of-the-pack Packers team.
But I'll tell you what, Anthony, don't you have to kind of expect that he's going to get banged up? Because you've got in the Vikings and the Lions and the Bears 3 of the best front sevens in football. And he's got to play 6 games against those guys.
I mean, you can't predict injury.
I'm predicting it right now, just because you said I can't.
I'm with you, Mike. I'm with you on that one.
Oh, hell, I'm wrong. Anthony, you're right.
I mean, Matthew Stafford has an injury stigma, and the guy hasn't missed a game in 5-6 years?
Yeah,
and
because
Matt Stafford earlier in his career had an injury stigma.
Yeah, but the problem is
128
this is
games
the thing,
in a row or something like that?
Very rarely. A lot of times guys can overcome an injury stigma when they're younger because they're younger and you can recover better. When you start getting older and you start getting hurt, you usually keep getting hurt. At least from what I've seen. And Steve can tell you that. He's 60. He's hurt all the time.
I am now. I'll tell you what. It's not one thing, it's another.
And I'm 50, and I'm hurt all the time, too. But Sam McGinnis
I get in my pool to swim in the morning, and I get hurt. Jeez Louise.
All right, so let's go to the Minnesota Vikings, Sam. And when we look at Minnesota, this is a team that...
I'm sorry, say that again?
The Minnesota Vikings. When we look at Minnesota, you got Gary Kubiak's style outside zone system, which I think fits Kirk Cousins really well. They got a mobile rookie center in Garrett Bradley. Pat Elflein, they're going to transition from center to left guard. I think this offensive line is going to be better. You've got Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. There's a lot of talent here, and if the defense can get back to playing the way they did 2 years ago, I think the question is not if they can make the playoffs, it's if Kirk Cousins can win in the playoffs.
Well, here's the thing, is that you look, Kirk Cousins last year actually statistically had his best year of his entire career. I think more it was the team that couldn't quite gel together just right last year. And after, a year with Kirk Cousins, maybe this year is then the year that they get on track because they've been with each other a little while. I think it all depends on at what time they can get it together so they really understand each other.
Yeah, and I think, Anthony, the big thing here is just the defense getting back to where it was. I mean, they're built on an aggressive split safety matchup zone coverage known as quarters. And they aggressively challenge receivers, tight ends, cornerbacks press, safeties play low, stingy on run defense. And if this defense gets back to the way it played 2 years ago, this is a team I think could surprise people and possibly contend for a Super Bowl.
You're talking about the Bears here?
No, the Vikings.
Okay. Yeah, I lost.
Are you even paying attention to the show, Anthony?
No, I have my 4.5-year-old, so I had to put you on mute for a second.
Well, put him on. We got Risley on. We might as well have your 4.5-year-old.
Wow.
Oh, come on. I'm going to make fun of you. I know you better than the others. Go ahead. Sam's mom will beat me up if I start making fun of her son. So,
if you look at all of the teams in this division, obviously the Vikings, they have the advantage with the head coach. Mike Zimmer's been there for a long time. And I think one of the more underrated moves was bringing in a Gary Kubiak to help out the offense, to help out Kirk Cousins. They have a really good running back in Dalvin Cook when he's on the field. And you brought up their defense. That defense is going to be key because they didn't quite look the same last year. Xavier Rhodes played lights out 2 years ago, and last year he looked human at times.
He was also hurt a lot of last year, too.
But if that defense can come back to form, I think the Vikings, like I said, any one of these teams can emerge. They have two of the best receivers. If you look at Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, I feel like they're a very underrated tandem. And Kirk Cousins is, he struggles in the big spot, but he has won some games and he can put up numbers and he can carry a team.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a whole lot of big spots. He was a Washington Redskin before.
True.
So, it's like saying Matt Stafford's not good in playoff games. He's only had a couple shots at it, and the officials stole one of them from him. Go ahead.
All of these teams, there's not one team that doesn't have some kind of a flaw, which makes the NFC North really interesting.
Yeah, and Steve, when we look at this, is Kirk Cousins good enough to take the Vikings to a division championship?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm picking Minnesota to win the division. I was before too, but now it's just assured. We get the Risley report.
I think of the four quarterbacks in the NFC North, he's the weakest of the four.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Out of the four, no way. You're going to tell me Kirk Cousins is not as good as Mitch Trubisky? Mitch Trubisky is crap.
I do not understand the Mitchell Trubisky hype. I don't get it.
No, it's what it was is this. He was awful 2 years ago, and he was almost average last year. And if we're going to go ahead and transition and talk about the Bears, this is the thing that stands out.
Wait, what about Trubisky? Okay, let's go to Trubisky.
Number one is
Trubisky knows his limit.
Okay. No, he doesn't.
He knows his limitations.
No,
he doesn't play outside of
He's a quarterback that can't throw to the outside.
Yeah.
And he doesn't throw to the outside.
Yeah, so you can't win that way. Last year, they won for one simple stat. They intercepted like 27 passes and got 30-some turnovers. If you look at the past 30 years in the NFL, teams, I'll compare it to this. I'm a Bengals fan. In 2005, the Bengals caused like 43 turnovers. They went 11-5. The next year, they caused 24 turnovers, and they were 8-8. Because it's very rare that you get back-to-back years where you take the ball over or take the ball away that much. You put on top of it the fact that you've got a new defensive coordinator in Chicago. You lost Jordan Howard, who's a hell of a running back. And I don't care what they replace him with. Jordan Howard is a damn good running back, and that's going to be a big loss for them. Mitch Trubisky is never going to be anything other than an average quarterback. And as long as Mitch Trubisky's in Chicago, I don't care what they've got on defense. They're not going to win a Super Bowl.
Well, I don't think any team out of the NFC North is going to win the Super Bowl. I think none of them are really Super Bowl contenders.
I think the Vikings are a Super Bowl contender. I think anytime you got Aaron Rodgers, you're a Super Bowl contender. Because he gets hot, he can throw it behind his back and complete it. Now, I also think this. I think the Packers will be last in this division.
I said that earlier in the show.
Oh, well, I think they'll be third. Sam, what do you think about the Bears? I know you're a big Bears fan since you're a Lions fan.
Yeah, no, I don't think they'll be the worst in the division, but I definitely think they'll take a step back. Mitch Trubisky, yeah, totally agree. Not a very good quarterback in my opinion at all. I think he's masked by both the running game and his defense. So I think they'll do much worse this year, but I don't think you can completely count them out because their coach is fantastic.
Yes, but if he was fantastic, he'd get a different quarterback. Right?
True.
Okay.
I have a question. How many Super Bowls did Dan Marino win?
None.
None. There you go. So
There
being
we
a
go.
great quarterback doesn't mean you're not a quality team.
Huh.
You got to be an adequate quarterback. You got to do your job, know your role.
All right,
play
let's
your
do this,
position.
Steve. Name me all the quarterbacks that were just adequate that won Super Bowls. There's been, 52 Super Bowls? How many have been won by adequate quarterbacks?
Well, that would take 2 hours.
No, it wouldn't.
And I would have to pull up all the Super Bowls. Bart
You
Starr was an adequate quarterback.
What? Bart Starr
He
was an adequate quarterback?
Yeah.
You do
What did he do
realize
spectacular?
Bart Starr in his playoffs, what did he do spectacular? He is, I think, the only quarterback, Anthony, that had a passer rating over 100 in every playoff game or championship game he's ever played in. Bart Starr was, I think, 9-1 or 10-1 on playoff games and Super Bowls. Bart Starr led the drive in the Ice Bowl to win the World Championship. And the only World Championship they lost is when he ran out of time inside the Philadelphia Eagles' 10-yard line after he'd already taken him 70 yards in 45 seconds to be in position to win the game.
Doug Williams was an adequate quarterback.
Doug Williams was a better than adequate quarterback. Doug Williams is a quarterback that came out with pressure of being a black quarterback who was drafted very highly with the Buccaneers. He goes to the Buccaneers. He gets drafted in 1978. By 1979, Steve, he had him in the NFC Championship game. In 1981, he took him to the divisional playoffs. Then he took the money, went to the USFL, and screwed his career up. Doug Williams, Mitch Trubisky will never be as good as Doug Williams was. I can give you this. Mark Rippon was an adequate quarterback who won a Super Bowl.
Adequate quarterback. There you go.
Jim
There's another
McMahon
one.
was
Yeah.
adequate and won the Super Bowl. Brad Johnson was adequate and won the Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer, adequate, won the Super Bowl. So you're right,
See,
Steve.
there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah.
There's 4 out of 52. That's not a bunch.
Well, it's not 52. There's multiple winners in that group. I mean,
Exactly.
you got Brady's
And-
got
okay, wait a
6 of
second.
them.
That'll
Brady's
prove
got
my
6 of
point.
them on his own.
Wait a second. Tell me an adequate quarterback that won 2.
I'd have to pull it up.
No, you don't.
I mean,
you don't have to pull it up. Because
Jim
quarterbacks-
Plunkett?
Jim Plunkett was better than adequate.
Jim Plunkett.
Jim Plunkett was better
What
than
about Nick Foles?
Hey, all I know is this. Well, Nick Foles, we don't know what he is yet. If Nick Foles goes to Jacksonville and they're in the playoffs the next 4 years, I don't think you can call him
He's
adequate.
better than adequate.
And I think this.
Right.
I don't think with the game he played in that Super Bowl. See, the thing is this. Trent Dilfer was not like lights out and the reason they won the Super Bowl. Brad Johnson wasn't the reason they won the Super Bowl. Jim McMahon wasn't the reason the 85 Bears won the Super Bowl. But there's a direct correlation in the way Nick Foles played by scoring 41 points on the Patriots and leading a game-winning touchdown drive. There's a direct correlation that that's not adequate. That's a great quarterback. Now, I'm not going to call him great because he hadn't played long enough to be that. Right now, to me, he's a very good quarterback that got hot, but I don't think adequate is Nick Foles. Nick Foles also got the Eagles to the playoffs, his first or second year, where he threw 27 touchdowns and 2 or 3 picks. Nick Foles was only adequate.
I think he's good with that team.
Put it like this. He was
I don't know how
wait a
he'll do with
second.
the other ones.
He was adequate when Jeff Fisher was his coach. But he was less than adequate with Jeff Fisher as his coach. But Jared Goff sucked with Jeff Fisher as his coach. Steve McNair went from the Rookie of the Year to sucking when Jeff Fisher was his coach. So I would say the jury's out on Foles, but the fact that he did what he did in the Super Bowl, put it like this, Steve, an adequate quarterback has never played big time in a Super Bowl, has he?
They've gotten the job done.
All right, you know what? Anthony could have played quarterback in Super Bowl 20 and the Bears would have won. Correct, Anthony?
Yes.
Yeah. Just hand it off to Walter Payton and let the 85 monsters at a Midway win you the game.
Okay. Well,
So-
that's an adequate quarterback.
Oh, jeez.
I think Trubisky's wrapped around. I think of all
His
the
name's
quarterbacks
Trubisky.
in that division right now, Trubisky's wrapped around the best team.
Trubisky.
He's got the best team wrapped around him.
Really?
And
I don't necessarily think
believe so.
I think Minnesota has the most talent here.
How much is Vic Fangio not being in Chicago anymore going to hurt the Bears?
Steve?
Don't they have Pagano now?
Yeah, and that hurts because Pagano's not half the coach Fangio is. And the other thing is this, Pagano is one of those kind of chilled out coaches where Fangio's a guy that's in your face and he's pushing you to play. And when you've got a laid-back coach, you can get away with a little bit of coordinator, but not really. A laid-back coach leads to more laid-back practices, and usually teams that don't understand what they're doing as well. When you've got a guy like, they had last year, Fangio, that dude holds you accountable. You stay on your toes, and you don't screw off when you're not supposed to be screwing off.
Fair enough. I mean, I come from Bobby Knight, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So, we were always on our toes.
That's basketball. It's different. This is a man's sport we're talking about. Right, Sam?
Yeah.
Wow.
What? Well, Sam is a football player, not a basketball player, Steve. But,
okay.
I think this, when we look at this, Sam, I mean, I think the only way the Bears could repeat what they did is if Mitch Trubisky all of a sudden became a really good quarterback. And I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, no. He's incredibly inconsistent, and the consistency he does have is usually bad. So I don't see him turning around in any sort of a way that would really boost this team back to where it was.
Yeah. Anthony, agree or disagree?
No, I agree.
So when we look at the NFC North, do one or two teams or possibly three teams make the playoffs out of this division, Anthony?
The NFC is strong. They have a lot of teams. I think two. I just can't see three happening.
All right. So who wins the division, Anthony?
I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers.
All right. Sam?
Vikings.
Steve?
Bears.
Does that mean I have to pick the Lions so we all pick something different?
No, then you'd just be lying.
If I'm picking the Lions, I'm lying, is basically what Sam just said. I'm going to go with Sam. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. I think they got the most talent here. And if Kirk Cousins can play consistently and the defense can go back to what it was 2 years ago, I think this is the one team out of here that can make a run at the Super Bowl. I think the other three teams, it wouldn't surprise me if any of them won the division. It would surprise me if they made a deep run into the playoffs, though. Steve, who comes in third? I'm just kidding, Steve. But all right, tomorrow. Oh, how about this, Steve? You wanted to talk about something you saw on HBO Real Sports, right?
No, not really.
Well, you asked us on the thing. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, so I was going to see if you could explain it to me, so I'd want to watch it.
Oh no, you got to watch it. I mean, it was just they did a good piece on the kicker for the Ravens.
Justin Tucker.
Justin Tucker, he's it was a good piece. I mean, that's all it was.
I'm going to watch it when we get off here, and I'm going to harass you tomorrow if I think it's stupid. So.
Yeah.
I would suggest everybody go watch Did anybody see the special on Rocky Bleier going back to Vietnam last night?
No.
You need
no.
to
What
watch
channel
that.
was that on?
It was on ESPN, so I would imagine you might even be able to pull it up on YouTube by now. But it was the first time he'd been back to Vietnam, and they actually filmed it last year, which was the 49th anniversary of when he got shot in the leg, and then the grenade went off on his foot and everything. But I mean, Rocky Bleier is a real, true American hero, and
yes, he is.
You'll never talk to a nicer guy. Steve, you got to talk to Rocky Bleier.
I met him.
You got to talk to him.
So,
he was on our show,
I
Steve.
met him too. I know, and I met him.
I thought you forgot. Okay. He didn't remember.
Did anybody watch what's the HBO football show they do?
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks.
Oh,
Did you watch that last night?
I watched that.
Yes.
I thought actually, I'm kind of in Antonio Brown's camp now a little bit. I don't think
Why?
he's that bad of a guy. What do you guys think?
I think he is
Let me just bring that up.
Wait a second. I'm going to tell you a little
All
story.
right, let me just bring that up.
Hold on. I'm going to bring this up. About right after I started this website about 3 or 4 years ago, I had somebody from Michigan who got a hold of me. And there was a kid that his last wish was to meet Antonio Brown. And I'm not going to say any names, but there was a couple guys that still work for the Steelers that used to be wide receivers, older guys, who I got a hold of because they'd been on our show a few times, and I had a little bit of a relationship with them. And I asked them to see if Antonio would do that. And he said, I don't have time for that. And it got to the point where the kid's mom called me and said, well, if he would just do a FaceTime chat for like 5 minutes, it would mean everything to my son. Antonio Brown wouldn't even respond to that. I thought it was really weird last night how John Gruden said, I'm really glad he's sticking up for what he believes in. It's a helmet. Whose dog's barking?
My dog.
Oh, come on, Risley Jr.
Mine are both sleeping. So,
but yeah, so
I don't know.
Antonio Brown.
I didn't know that story.
And let me ask Sam
me,
this.
it
Sam's
seems...
younger than us, so he may know the question to this. Sam, why is it Antonio Brown, even if he didn't show it last night, or even if he didn't see it last night, Antonio Brown shows up to practice with no helmet, but he's got a toboggan on, and it's 100 degrees. Why do guys wear toboggans when it's 100 degrees?
I don't
It's
know.
a style.
Antonio Brown does what he wants, and everybody else just kind of shuts up.
Exactly. And that's my
And he
problem
catches
with
passes
Antonio
and
Brown.
scores touchdowns.
Yeah, and wait a second. How many championships has he won?
I would guess 0.
Yeah, you would guess right. So, in the end, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will be better this year than they were when they had Brown and Bell. I still think they're screwed because they've still got one other cancer on that team, and it's Ben Roethlisberger. But, all right, guys.
Okay, so
What? Go ahead.
Oh, never mind.
Go
What's your
ahead.
take on Gruden? What's your guys' take on Gruden? Is he doing a good job at Oakland or not?
I don't like him.
He's a personality at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't have direction.
Yeah,
I mean, that team has 0 direction. They moved on from Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper, 2 players, one a superstar, another one could be a superstar. Very little, diva status. They move on from them, and then they bring in Antonio Brown, who's a diva. They bring in bad character players like a Vontez Burfict and a Richie Incognito. So what direction are they going in?
Wait. When's Vontez Burfict been bad character? When's he got arrested? What's he done off the field that was bad?
What?
Oh, my God.
So really, you guys are telling me Vontez Burfict has done stuff off the field to make himself detrimental to his teams?
No.
You don't need to do it off the field to be detrimental. On the field is even
no,
worse.
No, it's not worse. Because actually, people that do stuff detrimental to their team off the field are people you don't want on their team. I mean, he's playing football. It's a rough sport. And I hate to tell you this, but if you watch the game against Pittsburgh in the playoffs, the Steelers were doing the same thing the Bengals were, but Burfict gets busted for it because, Burfict's been in trouble for it before, so they keep an eye on him. Burfict hits with his helmet. He's an idiot. He's had so many concussions, he doesn't even know his name anymore. But this is the thing. If you say that he causes problems on the field, he does for the other team when he's healthy. But the one thing I will give you this is Richie Incognito, a lot of his stuff was off the field. There's a lot of guys that have been dirty players in the history of the NFL.
But I never said anything about on the field.
Yeah.
I said they were bad character players.
Yeah, but you can't say he's bad character. Well, how's he bad character? Because he gets a 15-yard penalty?
No,
Because he's playing headhunter, not football.
He's playing headhunter, which is the way football
what
was
you
always
do off
played.
the field can determine your character.
I don't think so. I think your character is only determined by what you do when you're off that field. Because I can tell you this, Anthony, if you play college football to Division I level or something, everybody there is bad character. It's just some people are not smart enough not to get caught. Or some people are smart enough not to get caught. Others are. But you jump in the middle of any Division I college football pile, and I'm sure it's probably like this for the NFL, but I've never had that experience. A lot of really bad things go on there. The problem with Vontaze Burfict is he plays at 150 miles an hour all the time, and he played for a coach in Marvin Lewis that didn't control it. And Dominican Sue was the same thing. Now, come on, this is the thing. Jack Lambert's in the Hall of Fame. And Jack Lambert played a lot dirtier than Vontaze Burfict ever did, but it was legal then.
But hasn't this always been the Raiders' mantra, though?
No.
To play football like they're doing.
The Raiders' mantra, this is the thing, though. The Raiders' mantra died about 20, 30 years ago anyways. I think that the Raiders' mantra died when they got rid of Tom Flores. Because really, the Raiders have not been a successful franchise from 1990 to now, really. They had the one Super Bowl they were in. And really, you could say, if you look at the mid and late 80s, the Raiders basically died in the mid-80s. At least the Raiders as we knew them with the autumn wind and all that crap. But you know what? The way Vontaze Burfict plays would have fit perfect in the 1970s, and nobody would have ever said anything bad about him.
That's fair.
So I can say this.
Yeah.
It's football. It's very violent. And the thing is this. If you've only played Pee-wee, junior high, or high school football, a lot of times you don't realize how quick things happen when you go to a higher level. And you have to defend yourselves at all times. And that's why every game, Sam, we see guys get penalties for that. Because a lot of times, if you're coming full speed at somebody and they duck down, you just hit them in the head and never even meant to. And I think the problem with Burfict is, I would buy that Burfict was a bad dude or a bad character guy if he got in trouble off the field. But we both live close to Cincinnati, Sam, and nobody's ever heard anything about him getting arrested off the field since he was a Bengal or since he's went to Oakland. So I'm going to err on the side that he's maybe just
it's
not.
It's been 3 months.
No, he was in Cincinnati for close to a decade. No arrest, nothing.
You just said he hasn't been arrested since he's been in Oakland.
No, I said since he's been in the NFL, I don't know that he was ever arrested before the NFL. His problem before he got to the NFL was the fact that he had penalties and the fact that he was usually out of shape. And the thing that ran him out of Cincinnati was the fact the last 2 years he was fat and out of shape. But now he seems in shape because it's his last chance, because guys like him don't get more than a second chance. And the other thing I want to bring up, Anthony, is you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, so don't judge anybody's character on or off the field.
Ouch.
Oh.
Randy Gregory.
He's got
wow. Man,
Randy Gregory smokes pot.
Randy Gregory's done more than smoke pot.
I coached Randy Gregory in high school basketball.
Exactly. That's Randy Gregory's issue.
Here we go.
And he cold cocked my son. My son was running the scout team against the varsity.
Please
don't.
This is the sickest story Risley has ever told me, Anthony, because he's told it to me like 20 times in the last 2 or 3 years.
He lifted him 6 feet off the ground.
Wait a second, because Risley's going to laugh at some point when he tells you about his son getting concussed.
He got concussed.
See? He's giggling again.
And he came back in the next play.
And Risley let him. Good parenting.
I wasn't a coach of the football team. I was just a dad watching practice that day.
Well, you go take him out. But,
it's not my call.
All right. So me and Sam got the Vikings, so that means Sam will be the one that's right today because he's going with me.
I got the Bears.
And then Anthony's got the Packers.
Yes, I do.
And tomorrow.
Okay, but
there you go.
What? Go ahead.
If we were talking, because everybody was like, there's going to be a second team in this division to go to the playoffs, who do y'all think that'll be?
Anthony said that, not me or Steve.
I think so.
You think so? Who do you got?
I'd have the Bears at 2.
After you just ripped Mitch Trubisky? Steve, second
Yeah,
playoff
because their
team
defense is still good.
Second. Go ahead.
I think this division is so balanced. It's going to be hard for two teams to get in the playoffs. They're so evenly matched. I mean, it's we're all going to be right or wrong. I think this division is probably the most evenly matched division in the NFL right now, in terms of teams having the talent, the quarterbacks, the defensive players, the additions in the off season. I think that you're going to see a lot of 8-7 teams or 8-8 teams or whatever it is, 16 games, 8-8 teams. You're going to see a lot of balance, and you're going to get one team that's going to win this division to get in the playoffs. I don't think there's going to be two out of this division.
All right, Anthony. Did we lose Anthony?
No, you broke up there. I'm here.
Okay.
You're going in and out.
So do you think there's a second team that makes the playoffs?
I think there is. You got the Packers. I think if there's going to be a second team, it's going to be Minnesota.
I think if there's a second team, it's going to be the Detroit Lions, Sam.
Stop getting my hopes up, please.
I'm sorry, Sam. Don't worry. I don't think they'll win a playoff game. It'll be just like always. You'll be all right.
We're going to have to watch the Lions play on Thanksgiving Day again.
I hope so. I just wish they would play at Tiger Stadium instead of in a dome.
I know. That would be cool. Play it outdoors.
Play it outdoors. And
if they could just win games, I'd be happy.
Oh, that's not going to happen, Sam. I didn't mean it when I picked them to make the playoffs. That was just if a second team made it, that's who I think it'll be. But I really like Matt Patricia. I really like Matt Stafford. I think this team, I think a year or two from now, I think the Lions win the division.
I genuinely hope you're right.
I genuinely hope I do, too. I'm a Lions fan. Because, see, I'm a Bengals fan,
I would agree with
so
that.
I just cheer for all the crappy teams.
Is that why you're wearing the Lions shirt?
I got the Lions shirt because I actually coached at a camp there like 5 or 6 years ago, and they gave me a Lions shirt. Pretty much anything I wear was given to me because I coach football, and the reason I coach football, Sam, is to get free clothes.
That's a good reason, actually. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, if you come and you look in my closet, you won't find anything that probably didn't have something to do with me coaching a football somewhere so I could get free clothing. Only my underwear do I have to buy. But, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. NFC East tomorrow, Anthony?
Absolutely.
Sam, did you want to come on and fight the cowboy fight with me and Steve?
I'll have to talk to you about that later. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
All right. No big deal either way. I just wanted to make sure I had you on for the Lions. All right. I want to remind everybody, you can go check out Anthony Cervino at the FF Face-Off. When's the last time you did a podcast, Anthony? I haven't seen one in a few days.
I just put one up yesterday.
Did you?
Put on it yesterday, yeah.
You got to let me know. You can't just tag me and stuff because I don't always see everything.
Go to Twitter.
I don't
3 a
like
week.
Twitter.
I'm at 3 a week right now, and in season it could be more because our numbers are booming.
All right, and I can tell you this then. You can get an episode of Fantasy Football Face-Off tomorrow morning on thegruelingtruth.com. Tonight, me and Robert Drummond and Brian Schmidt, of course, Robert, 4-time Grey Cup champion, CFL legend, will be on with the CFL Pick'em Show at 9 o'clock tonight. Hear Jeremiah Pricer, Inside Boxing Daily, tonight at 11. And, of course, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, myself, Anthony, Steve, maybe Sam, maybe somebody else will be on to do the NFC East. And also this morning I did a college football preview show from CBS Sports. Randy Cross joined us. Randy, of course, was a starter on, I think, 3 of the San Francisco 49er World Championship teams. So make sure you check that out on thegruelingtruth.com, and make sure you check out our presenting sponsor, betnow.eu. Use the promo code TRUTH50 to get a 50% cash back bonus up to $1,000 on your first deposit. All right, guys, you can hear us on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify.
Mike, you want to know what I'm doing tonight?
No.
I'm watching Jeopardy and Yellowstone.
Okay.
Best show on TV.
Sam, if you ask somebody, do you want to hear what I'm doing tonight, and they tell you no, would you tell them?
Probably not.
Okay. Anthony, would you tell them?
No.
Okay. All right, guys. Remember, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, Google Podcast. Over 300 different places you can hear the grueling truth. So make sure you're back with us tomorrow at 1 o'clock for Survive in Advance. For Sam McGinnis, Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the grueling truth, where the legends speak.